The Unlikely Concord. In the sprawling, sun-drenched meadow known as Whispering Glade, where the grass grew tall and the dandelion clocks told the time to whoever cared to look, lived a hare named Hemlock. He was not the fastest hare, nor the most cautious, but he was, by a significant margin, the most curious. His world was one of boundless horizons, of open skies and the ever-present whisper of the wind. His home was a shallow form, a slight depression in the earth hidden by a curtain of ferns, and his life was governed by the rhythm of dawn and dusk, of nibbling clover and outrunning the shadow of the hawk. Just beyond the edge of the glade, where the wild grasses gave way to the tidy fences and blooming gardens of a small village, lived a cat named Asher. Asher was a creature of velvet dusk and slumbering sunbeams. His fur was the color of wood smoke, and his eyes were two chips of polished jade. His world was one of defined boundaries. The warm stones of the patio, the soft cushion on the window seat, the predictable delivery of meals in a porcelain bowl. He was a creature of comfort and quiet observation, his life a slow, graceful dance of naps, stretches, and the occasional half-hearted chase of a falling leaf. Their worlds were parallel lines, never meant to meet, but fate, as it often does, intervened not with a bang, but with a whimper. A small, terrified whimper that came from a drainpipe during a storm that shook the very foundations of the glade. Hemlock, huddled in his form, his ears flat against the drumming rain, heard it. It was a sound that didn't belong to the wind or the creaking trees. It was a sound of pure, unadulterated fear. His curiosity, a force stronger than his own instinct to stay hidden, propelled him forward. He hopped toward the village, his fur plastered to his skin, until he found the source, a sodden, shivering ball of gray fur wedged deep inside a cold iron pipe. It was Asher, who, in a foolish pursuit of a moth, had been caught in the deluge and now found himself trapped, water rising ominously around his paws. "You are not a fox," Hemlock stated, his nose twitching rapidly as he assessed the situation from a safe distance. Asher, pride wounded and body freezing, managed a weak hiss. "And you are not a savior. Go away." But Hemlock didn't go away. He saw not a predator but a creature in distress. "Water is bad for cats?" he asked, genuinely inquisitive. "Water is bad for this cat when he is drowning in it," Asher yowled over the howling wind. With a bravery that surprised even himself, Hemlock began to work. He wasn't strong enough to pull the cat out, but he was clever. He found a long, fallen branch and, with immense effort, nudged it towards the drainpipe. "Climb," he shouted. "It is like a tree, but on its side." Desperation overriding dignity, Asher dug his claws into the wet bark and hauled himself out, collapsing onto the muddy ground in the pathetic, dripping heap. He looked at the hare, expecting to see the glint of predatory triumph, the prelude to an attack. Instead, he saw only wide, concerned eyes and a twitching nose. "Why?" Asher coughed, his voice a ragged whisper. Hemlock tilted his head. "The storm is enemy enough for one night. It is not a good night for making new ones." From that sodden, inauspicious beginning, a most unlikely friendship began to sprout. At first, it was a friendship of quiet acknowledgments. Asher, from his perch on the garden fence, would see Hemlock grazing at the edge of the glade and would offer a slow, deliberate blink, the highest compliment in feline language. Hemlock, in return, would twitch his nose in a specific, friendly pattern. Then came the exchanges. Asher, discovering the profound joy of a particular type of wild mint that grew near Hemlock's form, would bring small tokens. He left a soft, brightly colored feather from a pillow fight he'd witnessed through a window. He brought a single, perfect catnip mouse, a treasure of his own, as a supreme gesture of trust. Hemlock, touched by these gifts, reciprocated with the finest his world had to offer, the sweetest clover heads, sun-warmed and bursting with flavor, and a guided tour to the best patch of catnip in the entire glade, a place Asher had never dared to venture. They learned each other's languages. Hemlock learned that a lashing tail meant annoyance, while a quivering tip meant focused interest. He learned that Asher's purr was a sound of deep contentment, a secret engine of happiness. Asher, in turn, learned to decipher the nuanced twitches of Hemlock's nose and the various positions of his enormous ears, alert, relaxed, fearful. He learned that thumping a back foot was not a dance, but a grave warning. They discovered that their differences were not divides, but the very threads that strengthened their bond. Hemlock, with his boundless energy and panoramic awareness, became Asher's eyes and ears for the wide world. He showed him the hidden pathways through the tall grass, the best sunning spots that appeared only at midday, and how to identify the distant cry of the hawk long before it was a threat. Asher, with his stealth, his patience, and his understanding of the enclosed world of humans, became Hemlock's strategist and protector. He explained the strange, non-predatory nature of the village dogs, who were loud but bound by fences. He taught Hemlock how to move with silence, how to use shadows as cover, and once he even distracted a prowling fox with a well-timed, ferocious hiss from a low-hanging branch, allowing Hemlock to escape to safety. Their friendship was a secret concord, a beautiful anomaly that existed in the liminal space between the meadow and the village. They were the keeper of each other's secrets and the witness to each other's solitary lives. The ultimate test of their bond came on a crisp autumn day. A new threat had arrived in the glade, a large, cunning dog from a nearby farm who had developed a taste for rabbit and had learned to hunt without the accompanying noise of barking. He was a silent, grim shadow, and he had set his sights on Hemlock. Hemlock, confident in his speed, was caught off guard. The dog cut him off from his bolt holes, herding him towards a dead end near the stone wall of the village cemetery. Hemlock's heart hammered against his ribs like a trapped bird. He was fast, but he was cornered. The dog advanced, saliva dripping from its jowls, its eyes locked on its prey. It was then that a shadow detached itself from the top of the stone wall. Asher had been following, a silent guardian. He didn't yowl or hiss. He calculated. As the dog gathered itself to spring, Asher launched himself from the wall, not at the dog, but onto a loose pile of sticks and dried gourds stacked precariously against it. It was a harvest decoration, and Asher's weight was just enough to send it crashing down in a tremendous, startling clatter. The dog, shocked and confused by the sudden noise from an unseen source, faltered. Its predatory focus shattered. For one crucial second, it looked away from Hemlock. That was all the time the hare needed. In a blur of brown and white, he shot through the newly created gap and vanished into the safety of a thick bramble patch. The dog, realizing it had been tricked, turned its fury on Asher. But the cat was already gone, a gray phantom flowing over the wall and into the branches of an old oak tree, looking down with cool, unblinking jade eyes. Later, when the sun was setting and painting the sky in hues of orange and violet, they met at their usual spot, the border between their two worlds. Hemlock was still trembling. He was very quiet, Hemlock panted. "Some hunters are," Asher replied, meticulously washing a paw, though his own heart was still racing. "It is not always about speed. It is about silence and surprise." "You were very loud," Hemlock said, a note of profound gratitude in his voice. "I know," Asher said, a rare purr rumbling in his chest. It was undignified, but effective.
They sat in comfortable silence for a long time, the hare and the cat. The open, boundless world of the hare and the enclosed, comfortable world of the cat had merged in that moment of crisis, creating a new shared territory, the territory of their friendship. It was a place built not on similarity, but on saved lives, shared gifts, and the unshakable understanding that in a vast and sometimes dangerous world, the most powerful shelter one could find was in the loyalty of an unlikely friend.
The hawk still circled, the dog still prowled, and the rains still fell. But in the space between the meadow and the village, a hare and a cat had forged a peace that made both their worlds immeasurably larger and infinitely safer.